The second thing I would want to gift to you today is permission to take a different perspective or to take your perspective. Because when you're in the middle of building a business, it's really hard to see clearly. Every setback starts to feel bigger than it is, or every mistake more costly in some way, more catastrophic. And every other person looks like they're more successful than you. Hello, and welcome to the Art of Value Whispering podcast. I'm your host, Melitta Campbell, your business coach and value whisperer. On this show, we talk about value whispering, hence the name. And value whispering, in case you didn't already know, is the smarter way to market your small business that just happens to be brilliant for introverts. Now, usually these episodes are dedicated to diving into an aspect of your marketing, exploring how to make that work. But not so long ago, it dawned on me that this year is my 18th year in business. So I have been looking back over what has happened over the last 18 years. How has my business evolved? How have I evolved? How has my approach to marketing changed or shifted, or my mindset around that changed? And I decided that I was going to share on this show, in this episode, all of that. All the biggest lessons that I have learned over the last 18 years, so you can have those, I don't want to say shortcuts, but frameworks, insights, and perspectives that will help you to grow your business faster and understand where perhaps you're not as far behind as you thought, or perhaps what you're experiencing right now is just what you need to experience to go through and grow and have your next breakthrough. Or perhaps it is okay that you're thinking, maybe I don't want to do this anymore. I want to start again and do something completely different. Am I crazy? I don't think so, because I've done that several times now. So I had this idea in mind to go through all of those lessons and share them all in one episode. But as I was reflecting and going through these points, I realized that is going to be like a 10-hour episode. So what I've decided to do instead is take those lessons and turn them into individual episodes. However, I will also be doing my best to share the biggest lessons together and open the floor to your questions in a dedicated webinar, which I will be holding on the 16th of July in the afternoon Swiss time. That makes it more or less the early morning for those who are over the pond in the States and beyond. And I hope you'll come and join me because, as I said, I'm going to go into lots of these lessons, but this will be your chance to say, hold up a minute, how did that happen? Like I do on this podcast, very often people said, oh, and this happened. And then they move on. You're like, whoa, 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 whoa. I want to know more about that. So come along to that session live and you can do exactly that. You can ask your questions. Plus, it will be a birthday party. So there will be celebrations, there will be prizes and gifts and all sorts of things going on. So please do join me for that. There will also be a follow-on afterwards where I'll be sharing 18 resources to help you take those lessons and help you to apply those ones that feel aligned for you and coming at the right time. So what I wanted to talk to you about today is an idea that came out of these musings, that when I work with clients or have conversations or see what's happening with other people's business, particularly those where they're feeling overwhelmed or they're feeling like, I'm not sure I'm doing the right thing, or I have too many options and I don't know which to choose. Often in these moments is when I see people turn to another strategy, or, oh, I need to get another certification, or I need to do something else or something more or something different. And this all comes back to a sense of self-doubt very often. And I think if your instinct is telling you move forward in a certain direction, you don't need another strategy, you need more permission. And that's what I want to talk to you today. I want to give you lots of permission slips today to run your business your way. Because what I consistently thought was going to be hard in my business, when I actually do it, so often it ended up being pretty straightforward and easy. And like, oh, I could have done that ages ago. I spent all this time procrastinating over it, waiting, like watching YouTube videos to help me figure this out. And when I actually knuckled down to do it, it was pretty straightforward. However, those things that trip me up are those where I think it's going to be straightforward. And then I bump up against usually some kind of mindset issue that holds me back or stops me in my tracks. And usually that's because I didn't give myself permission, or I started going down this route and in the background felt I didn't deserve it in some way. And I think these things are the ones that have had the most negative impact on my business and my ability to deliver and achieve what I set out to do is this second guessing. And often it comes from this fear that we're not enough, or that we're not deserving in some way. And I see it so often with my clients. They make a plan, they do something and it works. Great. Do more of that. You'll get more clients. And something stands in their way. And then suddenly they're like, well, I'm going to do this first. And well, I think this needs a bit of attention. And they're procrastinating in very seemingly productive ways. And it makes a lot of sense to do these things, but it's distracting them. And I think in these moments, this is when we need to pay extra special attention to what's really happening behind the scenes. And in those moments, I want you to give yourself permission to stop pushing, to stop trying to do everything, to stop chasing every new marketing trend if it doesn't feel right for you, and start trusting the expertise you already have. Because what you already have is more than enough to build a business that works for you, your vision, your personality, and your dream life. And if we are pushing against what feels natural for us, often it doesn't feel right. We stop. And this is when we have these moments where self doubt can come into play. And often, another thing I've seen happen is that when things aren't working, it's assumed that the solution is to do more, to be on more platforms, to create more content, to put another offer out there, to add in some form, more complexity to what we're doing. Yet often the biggest breakthroughs I've seen happen and I've experienced is when I and my clients have finally given ourselves permission to do less but better. Now, less but better was my word of the year 2 years ago, and I did a whole episode on that. So do go and check that one out. It'll be in January 2004. Forgot what year we were there for a second. So I want you to give yourself full permission to stop, take a step back, take a pause, much like Louise was saying in the last episode, and decide which way forward is going to work for you. And are you still connected to your goals, your vision? And are you trying to move forward in a way that feels really aligned with who you are, what your perspective is, and the experience that you want to create for yourself and others? Sometimes when things are feeling hard, it's because we've gone off track and we're doing good things, but it's not necessarily our thing. And if we're not doing our thing, if we're not being our best self, then we're only going to attract other people's clients into our business. So we want that all to be in alignment so it feels good to us. And we're going to start attracting more of our perfect clients that way too. And linked on to that is this idea of perspective. The second thing I would want to gift to you today is permission to take a different perspective or to take your perspective. Because when you're in the middle of building a business, it's really hard to see clearly. Every setback starts to feel bigger than it is, or every mistake more costly in some way, more catastrophic. And every other person looks like they're more successful than you. Like they've got it all figured out and you're lacking in some way because you haven't nailed this yet. I just want to let you know they're not more successful necessarily, and they rarely have it all figured out. I don't think any successful business owner will put their hand up and say, yep, I 100% know what I'm doing. I know where I'm going. I know that every decision I'm going to make is going to work. We're all just figuring it out in some way. because every business is unique, every person is unique, every situation is unique. There's always some element of unknown. So we need to trust ourselves and take that bigger perspective. And of course, over 18 years, I've gained a lot of perspective that isn't available to you when you're just starting out. And that's one of the reasons why I started this podcast in the first place. Way back in March 2020, before COVID really became a thing and walloped us all, I started the podcast because I'd heard too many women say, well, that's fine for them, but, I can't make that work. Or everyone else finds this easy. Why am I struggling so much? And there were so many questions, and I wanted to show them no, everybody's struggling. We've just got varying degrees of resilience and figuring things out, but that's normal. That's part of this journey. And once you accept that and go with that flow, then everything doesn't become easier, but it becomes easier to deal with. And we don't feel that every misstep is taking us off track, but it's more, we want to take this perspective of, isn't that fascinating? Why did that not work? I was so sure it would be a winner. And we can reflect and add to that perspective, but use the perspective of other women through this podcast. We've had more than 300 episodes, more than 200 guests now. And in the early days, up to episode 190, the podcast was called The Driven Female Entrepreneur. And it was just interviews with other women who've started a whole range of businesses from a whole range of backgrounds. And the insights from those episodes was amazing. But the reason I stopped those interviews was because the perspective became really clear. The journeys more and more for me were feeling very similar, like they were all coming from the same place, because the biggest lessons they learned was to trust your instincts. They'd seen that those times when they didn't trust their instinct, they didn't go with what they believed or what they felt was the right thing to do, and were pulled into someone else's idea of what their success should be or how they should get there. That's when things didn't go right for them. So borrow their perspective. It's a good one. And it's very reassuring to hear this over and over again. And I think we do need to hear it over and over again. So do dive into some of those older episodes. And if you're not sure where to start, drop me a message on LinkedIn. I'll be happy to recommend some. Just let me know what you're looking to learn, what your challenge is right now, and I'll point you in the direction. I think I remember every episode and every interview. I've enjoyed them all so much. Everyone was so generous in sharing their journey, their perspective, what went right and what didn't. And very often I had these wonderful off podcast conversations with them too. Many of them have become good friends. Yeah, it's been a wonderful experience, particularly since I find myself a little bit isolated. Maybe you're the same. I live in the Swiss Alps. So while there are, of course, people around me, there aren't so many business owners who share my perspective. My French is okay these days, but in a loud networking situation, I struggle to keep up. So the podcast and reaching out to people on LinkedIn and having coffee with people over there, that's how I've been able to reach out and speak to others, build my network, build my perspective. So listen to the show, dive into your network, see who else is around you that can help you gain a more constructive perspective when perhaps yours is feeling a little bit fuzzy and it's gone off course a little bit, like your compass is glitching. Lean into the perspective of others as well. And over time, this perspective that I've gained really shows me what actually matters. It shows me what mistakes matter and which ones don't. And it's shown me how to extract the lessons and use those mistakes. And often it's the mistakes and that experience that has led me to create certain frameworks in my business. And my clients very often tell me that in following that process and using the frameworks offered at each stage, it saved them around 2 years of trial and error and helped them to get that solid foundation for their business, their business model, their offer, their marketing, their messaging, their sales process. It's all in place in one straightforward way so that they can get going quickly. And because it's one flowing system, there's far less cracks between them for you to fall down and struggle with. So once you get that foundation, then you can lean into the next stage. And it's to strengthen those, play around with some, and then start to scale from there. And it's just a wonderful process. I love guiding people through that. Um, Side note, my little project at the minute is to take some of those frameworks and to build AI tools around those to help people apply those frameworks even more easily and quickly within their business. I've already created a few, and it's just amazing to see those in action and how quickly it works. Because the beauty of having an AI assisted learning journey, so it's not AI doing the work for you, but it's really guiding you through the process, is there's so much less second guessing. And that's the part where I see people get stuck quite often, is in the overthinking and second guessing. And that's why we have weekly live calls, so I can also extract people out of that, highlight where they may be stuck in overthinking, bring them out and put them back on track. Um, that always reminds me of when my kids were swimming and they had a guest swimming instructor once, and he was great. He got every kid to start swimming, and then he would literally pull them back. No, not that way. Do it like this. And then they would have another, no, pull it back. Do it this way. And then he would repeat and repeat until each child individually got it right. And then they were off, and he watched them and said, great, next. And he would go. And sometimes it feels like that in my business. No, not quite like that. Come back, do it like this. And it sometimes takes a few runs to make that process work for you, and then they're off. And it's, yeah, I don't know if that analogy stands up for anyone else, but anyway, in my brain, is exactly how it feels for me sometimes. But those frameworks are key, and I'm going to be sharing the stories behind those frameworks that led me to create those. And often it came from the mistakes and the perspective that those mistakes gave me that led to making those frameworks the way I did. And it's over the last 10 years of running this particular business, and the Value Whispering Blueprint has shown me just how robust those frameworks are, because they haven't changed at all. And they've been applied now to so many different businesses in so many different parts of the world. That's been really magic. So I'll be sharing you in the webinar some of those, say, stories behind the mistakes, behind the frameworks, so they can help you build that solid, robust foundation for your business as well. And over the last 18 years, I've gained the perspective that I was explaining at the beginning, that often what brings us to success is hidden. The blocks are hidden. The way forward is hidden because it's all in our mind. And that makes it one of the hardest things to deal with, because the only way I see it in my clients is when I see things not working, and then we can challenge their mindset, because often there's just something that needs to shift there to click into alignment. So click things into alignment for them, and then they can go forward, or challenge some faulty thinking that they've picked up along the way. We've all got that faulty thinking. It's what makes us interesting. It's what leads to arguments sometimes, but it also it's what leads us to interesting breakthroughs as well. But understanding which of the mindsets we already have are helping us and which ones are hindering us is part of the process. And assessing those systematically as you go forward is key, because many of these hidden blockers live in our expectations, our assumptions, our fears, all those stories that we're telling ourselves that may not always be true. They are some of the hardest obstacles to overcome, but also the most satisfying when you do find them. You're like, oh, I found another negative belief, or how can I tackle this? And in my book, Value Whispering, there's a whole chapter mapping out a process you can take to do exactly that, to find this faulty thinking, to find those limiting beliefs, and to challenge those, to change those, and to move forward with something that's more helpful for you. And once you have given yourself permission to build a business your way, and you've got that perspective of what works for you, progress becomes so much easier. Not because your business suddenly becomes effortless. I wish that would be wonderful, but nothing worthwhile comes without some effort, right? But it's because you stop wasting energy on the wrong things. you stop getting distracted by the next shiny object, or you don't go down that direction quite so often. I know I find myself from time to time going, "Ooh, that sounds fascinating," and I go down this whole thing. Oh no, I've been caught out by another shiny object, and I have to bring myself back. Um, but ultimately, you stop trying to build someone else's version of success and you gain a clearer understanding of what are your priorities. And that leads to simpler marketing. That leads to messaging that resonates with your dream clients. Remember what I said at the beginning? If you're not being yourself and building a business your way, you're attracting someone else's clients. So once you give yourself that permission, use your perspective and bring that together to create more momentum and progress in your business, it's much easier to stay on track and know what the right and wrong things are for you. What are those priorities? So you can stop feeling overwhelmed because you are just investing the time and energy in those things that are going to work for you. We don't always get it right. It's not always perfect, but we get it right more of the time. And so you start to, over time, gain that trust in yourself and that confidence that you can make great decisions that are going to work out and lead you to success. And if they don't work out, no worries. You're going to learn from that and it's going to build on your perspective. And all together, like I said, this is when momentum starts to build. And that's when really interesting things start to happen within your business. So, if I were to look back at my younger self and gift myself one thing when I started my business all those years ago, I don't think it would be another strategy to try out, but more some reassurance that I was already enough. Looking back, I was full of self doubt because I didn't really know what I was doing. In fact, I never really intended to build a business. I was just doing a little bit of freelancing on the side to keep my hand in, make sure that I didn't lose my skills, my understanding, or knowledge while I took a bit of time to raise my children and then go back to the office. Of course, 18 years later, I'm still here, never went back to the office. And once that realization dawned, then, things evolved. But I would love to go back and gift myself that reassurance that I was already enough, that I was never far off track at any moment in time. I just needed to stop, pause, take stock of where I was, take that perspective, and then decide my next best step. And eventually, I did do that. I did do that when stopping my first business and starting my second, which was another accidental business, which is why I stopped that after 4 years. Because although I was doing really well, I realized that doing well in that business wasn't what I wanted success to feel like. It wasn't really what I wanted to be doing with my life. I wanted to do something differently. And it brought me back to my original skills in marketing and communications and moving forward that in a different way. And 10 years later, it still feels like I'm on the perfect path. And I can't wait to continue growing that business, supporting more women with their messaging and marketing and with their business growth, and mostly handling all those tricky moments that we didn't see coming, where life or mindset or something got in the way of our good intentions, and keeping everyone on track and making sure that they have the systems that connect together to build that solid foundation so it's much harder to get thrown off track overall. And you just build an amazing business. It's your dream business that supports your dream life. You're working with your dream clients. It's just the best thing in the world. And that's what I want for you all. So I hope you found this episode helpful, that it's given you some permission slips to really take a step back and bring your business back to who you are and what you want, and to enjoy that process and to breathe through the overwhelm, because you shouldn't be feeling overwhelmed. That's because you're trying to do too many things. Bring yourself back to your perspective. Give yourself permission to do less but better. And what better looks like is up to you. Better is objective. I think for me, doing things better is doing things in a way that's more you. And we're going to have a brilliant conversation with Karen Salmonson on exactly that very soon. And I think every time it's exciting in a business to do that. It can feel counterintuitive in those moments where we're overwhelmed, we're trying to do everything, we feel like we can't do anything fast enough, everything needed to happen yesterday or last year. You know the feeling. We all know this feeling. It happens to us all the time. But in those moments, give yourself permission to breathe, step back, pause, do less, but better, and then take a move forward with your one priority, ladies. One. Not 1.5, even one priority. Everything else, park it. And that, of course, gives me another excuse to use my favorite phrase. You can't ride 2 horses with one ass. Just saying. One priority to take you forward, and using your perspective and trusting your instincts, you know what that priority is. And there will be, of course, a lot more of these tips, perspectives, and permission coming up for you in future episodes. But I'll also be, as I said, sharing as many as I can in 90 minutes in my 18th birthday live event. I'm not sure what to call it. It's not exactly a masterclass. It's not a pure Q&A. It's not a webinar. Let's just call it a birthday event, a birthday party. We'll call it that. If you're there live, you'll be able to ask questions. If you would like to come live, but it doesn't work out for you, and you have a question, just message me the question. I'll answer it on the webinar, or most probably I'll just, because I get really excited when people ask me questions, I'll answer it for you before then anyway. Or I might even turn your question into an entire podcast episode. Yeah, let me know. What else do you want to know from my story or my perspective that may be helping you right now? Let me know. I will turn those gladly into podcast episodes for you. Oh, right, the link. Before I get all excited, go to melittacampbell.com/birthday. Birthday at the end. And that will take you to the landing page where you can register for the 18th Big Business Birthday Bash. Oh, maybe that's what we'll call it. You heard it here first. So go to melittacampbell.com/birthday. Tell me where I should send the invite, and that will be winging its way to you. And I can't wait to see you on July the 18th. Meantime, come and connect with me on LinkedIn or email me. Let me know what from this episode resonated with you, and what can I share with you from those 18 years of perspective that's going to help you in your business next, and I will put that together for you. Meantime, I'm Melitta Campbell, your business coach and value whisperer, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Bye.